Stop showing off. It sounds harsh, but what if I told you that your need to be seen, liked, noticed, validated, is silently killing your power? In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, the real players are moving in silence. They're not posting. They're not performing. They're building. Quietly. Strategically. And when they show up, they don't beg to be noticed. They dominate. Machiavelli, the master of cold strategy, warned centuries ago, those who reveal too much lose control. Yet here we are, broadcasting our goals, exposing our fears, turning our lives into content. And what do we get in return? Anxiety. Comparison. Weakness disguised as confidence. This video isn't about being invisible. It's about becoming unreadable. It's about reclaiming your power by mastering the art of silence, mystery, and restraint, just like the most dangerous minds in history did. Watch until the end and I'll show you why the less you show, the more control you have. You'd think that being visible, loud, flashy, constantly present, would make you powerful. That the more people see you, the more influence you gain. But here's the Machiavellian twist. The opposite is often true. When everyone sees you, they start to measure you, criticize you, expect things from you. You go from being a mystery to a moving target. Think about it, what's more threatening? A shadow in the dark or a clown on a stage? Modern life confuses attention with respect. But Machiavelli knew that too much visibility breeds contempt. The more you show, the more ammunition you give to those who envy, resent, or want to manipulate you. And let's be honest, once people see all your moves, they start playing against you. It's not just about being seen, it's about being exposed. There's a difference between being known for your results and being known for your posts. Imagine a chess master who plays with all his pieces turned face up. How long do you think he lasts? The moment your intentions are obvious, your enemies, yes, you have them even if you smile for the camera, start calculating. Visibility makes you predictable. Predictability kills strategy. And without strategy, you're just reacting. That's not power. That's performance. And the crowd, trust me, eventually gets bored. Real strength isn't loud. It's quiet, deliberate, patient. It doesn't need a spotlight to function. In fact, the more you crave the spotlight, the more dependent you become on others' validation. And here's the kicker. When you're always on display, you lose leverage. You become what people expect, not what you truly are. But what if I told you this whole social theater we play might just be a digital version of an ancient royal court? If Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't be writing letters to princes. He'd be scrolling Instagram, analyzing captions like battlefield reports. Social media is the new royal court. It's where reputations are made, alliances are formed, and executions happen with a swipe. But here's the problem. Everyone's trying to be the king while forgetting that the real power often lies in the shadows, among the observers, not the performers. Back in the Renaissance, courtiers competed for favor by looking flawless, sounding clever, and pretending not to want power, while desperately chasing it. Sound familiar? That's your feed. The photos, the carefully crafted opinions, the humble brags disguised as authenticity. Machiavelli would smirk. He warned that in any court, too much exposure invites downfall. The moment you reveal too much of yourself, you give others the tools to destroy you. Every post is a performance. Every story is a strategic move, or a strategic mistake. But the thing is, social media punishes subtlety. Nuance doesn't go viral. Outrage does. Drama does. That's why the digital court is even more dangerous. You're pressured to overshare just to stay visible. And the more you share, the less control you have. You stop being a strategist. You become content. It's a trap. You think you're building influence, but you're actually offering yourself up for judgment, criticism, and imitation. And worse, you lose the one thing that truly scares your rivals: mystery. Remember, Machiavelli never told the prince to explain himself. He advised him to act in ways that confuse, surprise, and unsettle. But when your life is a scrollable album, where can you hide your intentions? Or better yet, how can you win if everyone already knows your next move? People think that by putting everything out there, goals, emotions, daily routines, they're being real. But from a Machiavellian perspective, they're just giving away the playbook. When others know what drives you, what irritates you, what you crave, they can control you. You're no longer an enigma. You're a formula. And formulas are easy to manipulate or replace. Predictability isn't just boring, it's dangerous. It gives your rivals a map. If you always react to criticism, they'll bait you. If you always celebrate your wins loudly, they'll wait to strike when you're most distracted. The more people know your patterns, the easier it is to set traps. Like a general who announces every troop movement in advance, you're marching into defeat smiling for the camera. Even those with no ill intent can use your openness against you. Friends start assuming things. Strangers feel entitled to your story. And enemies? They collect your words like weapons. The moment you become an open book, people stop reading with curiosity, they start reading with strategy. They analyze. They dissect. They wait. You become a project, not a person. And being a project is exhausting. So here's the power move: be selectively visible. Say less than necessary. Share what disorients. Let people guess. Let them wonder. When they can't predict your next move, they can't plan their attack. And when they can't read you, they start respecting the space around you. But how do you balance that with a world that demands constant expression? That's where silence stops being absence and becomes power. Powerful people don't announce their plans. They don't rant. They don't explain. They act. And when the results appear, the world is left wondering, how did they do that? That's no accident. It's a strategy, one Machiavelli admired deeply. In silence there is space to maneuver, to calculate, to adapt. While others are busy performing for attention, the powerful are preparing their next move where no one is looking. Silence unnerves people. When you're quiet, they start projecting. Is he planning something? Is she angry? Indifferent? Strong? Wait. In that uncertainty, you gain an advantage. You control the atmosphere without speaking a word. That's why the most dominant individuals often say the least. They understand that power is not just what you do, it's what others think you're capable of doing. Look at the figures who rise far above the noise. They're rarely the loudest in the room. They're the ones watching, calculating, and choosing their moments with surgical precision. When they speak, people lean in. When they act, it matters. That's not charisma. That's strategic silence. And in today's oversharing culture, silence is a superpower. It's not absence, it's tension. And tension makes people pay attention. But let's be honest, staying silent is hard. Especially when everyone else is shouting their highlight reels. The pressure to speak, to post, to prove yourself, it's constant. But what if resisting that impulse isn't weakness, but strength? What if the real masters aren't the ones constantly visible, but the ones quietly setting the board for the checkmate no one saw coming? Let's face it, there's a part of you that wants to be noticed, to be admired, to be seen. That part is your ego whispering, look at me, validate me. But here's the catch, the more you feed that need, the more you give away control. Machiavelli would call it a dangerous dependency. If your sense of worth is built on others' attention, they can take it from you anytime they want. Needing to be seen turns you into a performer. Not a strategist. Not a thinker. Not a builder. A performer. You start crafting your image not for power but for applause. And the moment applause stops, you panic. That's not power, that's vulnerability in disguise. The ego wants to dominate the stage, but true power doesn't need the spotlight. It builds in silence and strikes when least expected. There's a reason the most dangerous people are often the least flashy. Their strength doesn't come from noise, it comes from not needing noise. If you can walk into a room and not feel the urge to prove anything, you've already won. Because most people are slaves to that need. They overshare, overreact, overexpose, just to feel seen. Meanwhile, the ones watching quietly are positioning themselves for real influence. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in a room, said nothing, and let others reveal themselves? That's not passivity. That's dominance in disguise. But to reach that level, you have to kill the ego's addiction to visibility. And that's where one of Machiavelli's most underrated strategies enters the scene: the power of invisibility. Most people fear being invisible. They think if no one sees them, they'll be forgotten. But Machiavelli teaches us something counterintuitive. Invisibility isn't weakness, it's freedom. When you're not in the spotlight, you're not a target. You can observe, maneuver, influence from the shadows. And when you finally act, it's unexpected, precise, and far more effective than any noisy display. Being strategically invisible means showing up when it matters, and vanishing when it doesn't. You're not running away. You're choosing your battles, guarding your energy, and denying your enemies information. You don't owe the world your every thought or move. The less they know, the more they wonder. And in that uncertainty, you gain leverage. Remember, a quiet room amplifies the sound of a single whisper. Invisibility doesn't mean disappearing forever. It means becoming unpredictable. A lion that roars every day becomes background noise. But one that appears only when it's hungry? That's terrifying. Use your presence like a weapon, rare, calculated, and impossible to ignore. You don't need to announce your greatness. Let people feel your absence and start asking questions. That's when your name gains weight without you saying a word. But to pull this off, you must master the hardest part: restraint. The urge to speak, to defend, to explain, it's powerful. And silence feels risky in a world addicted to noise. Yet, it's in that restraint that you separate yourself from the crowd. And once you control when and how you appear, it's time to take the next step: controlling what others are allowed to see. Powerful people aren't just mysterious, they're selective. They don't let just anyone into their world. And that's not arrogance. That's strategy. The more access people have to you, the more they assume they know you. And the more they think they know you, the easier it is for them to reduce you, label you, and dismiss you. Machiavelli would say, never let them see the full picture, only the frame you choose. Think about your favorite films. The most unforgettable characters aren't the ones who tell you everything, they're the ones you can't quite figure out. That ambiguity keeps you hooked. The same principle applies to power. Control isn't about domination, it's about managing perception. And perception starts with what people are allowed to access. Not every emotion, not every setback, not every success needs an audience. You don't owe anyone backstage passes to your mind. Let them see the version that serves your purpose, not your raw, unfiltered self in every moment. That's not deception, that's discipline. Even your allies should be kept at a calibrated distance. It's not about paranoia, it's about preserving your strategic depth. If people always know where you stand, they'll know exactly how to shake you. So start asking yourself, who gets access to your energy, your plans, your fears? Who actually deserves that privilege? Because every time you overshare, you give up a piece of your narrative. And if you're not controlling that narrative, someone else will. But what happens when we keep sharing and sharing until there's nothing left to protect? We've been told that being transparent makes us brave. That sharing everything, our thoughts, feelings, wounds, and dreams, is the ultimate form of strength. But here's the hard truth. Oversharing doesn't always create connection. Sometimes it creates exposure. And exposure without control is vulnerability in its rawest, most dangerous form. What you share may feel empowering at the moment, but once it's out, it no longer belongs to you. The more you reveal, the more people reduce you to what they've seen. You stop being someone they're curious about and start being someone they think they've figured out. Oversharing turns your story into content, your growth into gossip, your struggles into spectacle. And in a world that scrolls fast, even your pain becomes part of someone's boredom relief. That's not influence. That's erosion. Familiarity dulls impact. When people see too much of you, they stop listening. They assume. They judge. They feel entitled to you. And what once made you powerful, your mystery, your discipline, your restraint, gets buried under too many captions and updates. True leaders know this. Distance commands respect. Privacy preserves power. Not everyone needs to know your every move to feel your presence. So if your influence has started to fade, ask yourself, have you given too much away? Not in energy but in access? If everyone sees the full portrait, where's the intrigue? And if no intrigue remains, how will your next move surprise anyone? That's where the real shift begins, when you choose to stop announcing and start building in silence. There's a certain magic in doing the work when no one's watching. No applause, no likes, no validation. Just quiet, consistent effort. And while the world chases attention, you're building something real, something no algorithm can touch. That's the difference between shallow popularity and deep influence. One fades the moment people look away. The other echoes long after you've left the room. Quiet influence is built in private moments. When you choose discipline over distraction, action over talk, intention over impulse. It's not glamorous and it rarely gets praised. But it compounds. People may not notice your progress day to day, but eventually your results become too big to ignore. And when that moment comes, you won't need to explain. You'll just arrive. And everyone else will wonder how you got there so fast. The key is patience. Let others rush to be seen, while you prepare to be undeniable. Don't broadcast every milestone. Let your silence create tension. Let your results tell the story. That's what makes them powerful. Because when something grows without needing permission, it shocks people. It disrupts expectations. It reclaims attention, not with noise but with weight. So the next time you feel overlooked, misunderstood, or invisible, remind yourself, that's part of the plan. The ones who build in silence aren't missing out, they're storing momentum. And when they finally decide to step into the light, the world doesn't just notice. It listens. But here's the final shift. What happens when you stop needing to be seen because you've learned to grow in the dark? It's easy to think that if no one sees your effort, it doesn't count. That if your progress isn't public, it's somehow less real. But that's a lie sold by a world obsessed with attention. True strength isn't built on stage, it's forged in silence. In the late nights, the early mornings, the moments of doubt no one claps for. The shadows don't hide your growth, they shape it. Machiavelli understood that power takes root where no one is looking. When you're not distracted by applause, you focus. You refine. You make mistakes privately, recover without shame, and come back sharper. The shadows are where pressure turns coal into diamonds. Where solitude becomes your mentor. And where your mind becomes a fortress that no amount of noise can shake. Most people fear the shadows. They equate them with loneliness, insignificance, failure. But for the few who embrace them, the shadows become sanctuary. A place to train, to think, to observe, to heal. And when the time comes to emerge, you do so on your own terms, not desperate for approval but rooted in unshakable certainty. You don't beg to be seen. You choose to be undeniable. So let the world sleep on you. Let them scroll past. Let them underestimate you. Because the longer you stay in the dark, the more powerful your return. And by the time they realize what you've become, it'll be too late to stop you. But the real question isn't if you'll rise, it's whether you can stay quiet long enough to become something worth revealing. What if your silence said more than your words ever could? You've just seen how the hunger for attention, especially online, turns influence into exposure and power into performance. But now you hold something most people never will: awareness. And with awareness comes a choice. Will you keep giving the world every piece of you? Or will you start choosing what to reveal, when to act, and who deserves access to your real power? Start small. Hold something back. Let curiosity build. Let people wonder. Because when they can't predict you, they can't control you. And when they can't read you, they respect you. That's the energy of someone who isn't trying to be powerful. They already are. Now ask yourself, what part of your life have you been broadcasting that deserves more privacy? What could grow faster if no one else saw it coming? If this video hit you in the gut, or made you rethink how you show up in the world, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell so we can keep building this kind of thinking together. And if you're already playing the long game in silence, just know, we see you.